Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition in my History of series. In celebration of Quan Chi's reveal this weekend, I figured that it would be the perfect opportunity to do a deep dive of his history, his origins, and how exactly did the Necromancer Supreme come to be, as he's one of the most beloved villains within the franchise. But in order for us to do that, we must dial the clock incredibly far back, prior to the events of the current era, and even the very first timeline, to peel away at what exactly makes Quan Chi, Quan Chi. But before we do begin, if you like what we do here and wish to see more, please don't forget to subscribe, as well as tick that bell to stay up to date with all things MK related. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into things. Now, despite his human appearance, Quan Chi is actually anything but that. Being a child of the Netherrealm, he actually falls under the race of Oni, demonic beasts birthed from its hellish landscape. Now, they are for the most part mindless beasts, but that's what separates Quan Chi from his brethren. He had an insatiable lust for power, and unprecedented talent for magic. Thus, he would turn his eyes towards the dark arts to ascend beyond simply that of an Oni. By learning of necromancy and honing his skills, Quan Chi was able to obtain demon status, granting him the appearance of a human in the process. But it isn't until he started to travel across the realms where his vision of life and ambition would truly open up. Whilst crossing through the different planes of the Netherrealm, he would eventually come across the fallen elder god Shinnok, eternally incarcerated to the confines of hell as punishment for his crimes against the gods. In the midst of his torture at the hands of the Netherrealm's ruler, Lucifer, the Damned One offered him a chance at a better life, promising him power in exchange for his freedom. And from wagering his options, Quan Chi would accept his offer, helping him overthrow Lucifer as Shinnok became its new overlord. But to maintain the facade of his incarceration, Shinnok would linger in the shadows, having Quan Chi do his bidding, but he was wise enough to know to not solely rely on that of a mad god. So Quan's own ambitions never quite stopped, even under Shinnok's bidding. During this time period, the Brotherhood of Shadow would begin to form, with Quan recruiting other demons like Serena, Kia, and Jataka beneath him. Yet, to guarantee his master's return, he would turn his gaze upon his sacred amulet, something stripped from him and guarded within the confines of Earthrealm. Knowing that his appearance could raise suspicion, he would hire two of Earthrealm's great legendary clans, the Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei. Then tying us into the events of the spin-off game, Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero. The contract that he had placed out on both clans pitted both sides against each other, having Hanzo Hasashi battle Bi-Han. In the fight over the scroll, Scorpion would perish, and to fulfill his own contracts to the Lin Kuei, as promised to the Grand Master, Quan Chi would wipe the Shirai Ryu off the map. Now, following Bi-Han's retrieval of the scroll, Quan Chi would make his presence known, establishing himself as the contractor for the hit, and that the job was far from over, despite Bi-Han's own objections, with the Grand Master having him take it. So the Cryomancer would travel out to the Temple of Elements, as Quan Chi himself returned back to the Netherrealm for his own sinister plan. Having seen the skill and capability of Hanzo Hasashi, the Necromancer would pluck his soul from the depths, offering him a chance at redemption by joining his side. And once having learnt of his clan's fate, with Bi-Han being framed for it, Hanzo would accept Quan Chi's offer, returning as Scorpion. It is also around this time where Bi-Han has defeated the gods of the temple, mere steps away from the amulet until Quan Chi appeared, snatching it from his grasp and revealing the true identity and properties of the amulet. Thus, the invasion of Shinnok seemed inevitable, but the Necromancer did not count on Raiden's interference. interference, having him send Bi-Han to the Netherrealm in order to retrieve it. The Demon Master would unleash his horde, but one by one they fell by his hand, leading to a confrontation between the two, where he lost, as Serena betrayed him. So Shinnok's invasion would be postponed for the time being. But unbeknownst to both Raiden and the Elder God, the amulet that had been taken back by Bi-Han was merely a fake, having been swapped out by Quan Chi for his own selfish ambitions. Following this point, Quan Chi as well as the Brotherhood would lie in the Netherrealm, biding their time and observing the Outworld Earthrealm conflict, even having their agents infiltrate Outworld's ranks. And in the aftermath of the first tournament, Quan Chi would yet again resurrect another fallen soul, this time Bi-Han having perished for his deceit. From this point onwards, the Cryomancer would bear the mantle of Noob Saibot, working closely under his master's thumb. Eventually, the day of reckoning finally came, where the realms would still be in tatters following Shao's defeat in 3. Shinnok would spread chaos and vengeance across the realm, with his Brotherhood plaguing damnation across the lands. Yet, during this time, Quan Chi further drove the knife of deception deeper into Scorpion, having him turn against the younger Sub-Zero and fooling him into believing that he had killed the remainder of his family. So during the events of Mortal Kombat 4, the lies of Quan Chi finally culminate in a ginormous reveal. As once Kuai Liang is defeated by Hanzo, the truth would finally surface, with the Necromancer ever so gleeful of the act he had unfolded before him. Seeing no more use for Scorpion, Quan Chi would attempt to cast him aside, sending him to the Netherrealm, but not before the Hell Spectre could grab a hold of his master, dragging him to the depths of hell where he could pay in blood for his lies. This then takes us to the 3D era of games, starting with Deadly Alliance. And fortunately for the demon, during this time he is able to escape the Spectre's clutches, having aligned with 2 Oni, Draman and Moloch, to narrowly escape his grasps. And by chance or fate, Quan Chi does end up finding the forgotten tomb of the Dragon King, where lies his slumbering army. And by reading the inscription on his sarcophagus, he comes to realize that it's possible to revive his army with the amulet. But to do so requires a great amount of magic and a harvester of souls. And there was no better sorcerer that came to mind than Shang Tsung. Now, this journey was a treacherous endeavor, as he would be forced to fight off Scorpion, but the payoff for such a plan was grand, as they would concoct something that would change the realms forever. Because under the disguise of Kung Lao, the Shaolin prodigy and tournament champion Liu Kang would fall beneath their hand, and by faking false loyalty to the Emperor Shao Kahn, the destroyer of worlds would fall. And so begins the era of this deadly alliance. To ensure their victory, they would hire the likes of the Black Dragons, having them enslave an Outworld village to build their palace, where they could harvest the souls and feed them to the Dragon King's army. But in secrecy, the two also had ties with the Red Dragons, seeing Kano as nothing more than a loose end. Now, both sorcerers knew better than to trust each other, and so the seeds of their own destruction would be planted. With the temple completed and the souls harvested, the climax of this game has the Earthrealm defenders lead a full-scale assault against them. But ultimately, it's all in vain, as they fall beneath their hand, with Quan Chi actually killing Kitana himself. But it is in Raiden's defeat where the Deadly Alliance would implode. The two would fight, with the demon victorious. Yet, this was all bittersweet, as another threat loomed on the horizon. Onaga, the Dragon King and former ruler of Outworld, had returned, stronger than ever before, and with his army revitalized, he was nigh unstoppable, as even the combined might of Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Raiden was not nearly enough to stop him in his steps. This forced Raiden to create a bomb that would take his own life, in the hopes of stopping the Dragon King, with Quan Chi caught in the detonation and mysteriously disappearing. Now, Quan himself does return in its sequel, Mortal Kombat Armageddon, following Onaga's defeat. Having learned of the prophesized end days of Armageddon, he would arrive at a summit with Onaga, Shao, and Shang. Here, the forces of darkness would align, but make it very clear that they were all fighting for themselves, as the power of blades could literally alter the fabric of reality itself. So, in the climax of Armageddon, where the Pyramid of Argus rises and all race to the top, Quan Chi can be seen striking down Quan Chi, but as he is about to deal the finishing blow, he would be tossed off by his former ally Shang Tsung in the skies of Ermac. In the end, Quan Chi would be one of many casualties to perish that day, with Shao Kahn himself victorious and ushering in a new age of death. Thus, this takes us on to the first real reboot of the franchise, Mortal Kombat 2011, also known as Mortal Kombat 9. Now, this installment in particular serves as both a reboot and sequel to the end of Armageddon, where the timeline is softly reset by Raiden, who sends a message to his past self, starting an entirely new era that does have some alterations and changes to its characters. For Quan Chi, he's actually more of a loyal follower of Shinnok than a cunning, crafty opportunist. However, his roots in the Scorpion Sub-Zero feud still do largely remain the same, with the only biggest alteration having it be that Hanzo's family dies alongside his clan. One of the biggest additions to his character though, is that it was actually him that killed Sindel upon Edenia's fall, as he found her betrayal of Jared and alliance with Shao Kahn a threat to Shinnok's return. So he would kill her in secret and cast a protective ward over Earthrealm in her name, having Shao believe that in taking her life, she had actually betrayed him. Now, the event of the first tournament does largely pan out in the same fashion as the original, with probably the biggest changes being his presence at this tournament, as he can be seen during the open ceremony and then later taking part in it. Honestly, his biggest role in the tournament is actually encouraging Scorpion to kill the first Sub-Zero, which would of course later lead to the creation of Noob Saibot. In terms of participation, he would battle the likes of Liu Kang, but this would be in a losing effort as he would go on to win the tournament. And with the first tournament over, the second one would begin, now officially taking place on Outworld's home turf, with Quan Chi once again representing them, as he works closely alongside the Emperor to guarantee Outworld success. But kind of like the prior tournament, he does play a very minor role, once being asked to summon Scorpion upon Shao's request, and later on does battle Kung Lao, whom he does lose to. But it's in the aftermath of the second tournament where Quan Chi truly shines. With Shao defeated, he is left at death's doorstep, with Liu Kang having punctured a hole in his chest. To gain the favor of the Emperor, he would nurse him back to health, and then suggest a different plan of attack. So first, resurrect Sindel, removing the protective wall, and then invade Earthrealm directly, completely discarding the tournament aspect. So during the climax of the game, we do get to see Outworld's full-scale assault and invasion of Earthrealm. And understandably, this results in the destruction of thousands, with even Quan himself forging a Soulnado to create more havoc. It takes the interference of the Shaman Nightwolf to stop him, but as he licks his wounds, the demon would retreat to the Netherrealm, allowing Khan's invasion to wreak death and destruction to both its people and its defenders, whom he would then turn into his revenant puppets. This can be seen in Raiden's chapter, where he mocks the Thunder God and ever so loosely alludes at a way he could defeat the Emperor. So by the end of the game, Shao is defeated, and it is of course revealed that Quan Chi was merely manipulating the Emperor, allowing Shinnok a much easier return. But Quan himself does express a bit of disappointment in Raiden's survival, but Shinnok reassures him that death comes for all. So this now takes us to our next installment, Mortal Kombat X. And this game opens up with Shinnok's invasion of Earthrealm, laying siege to the world of man, with Quan Chi storming the Sky Temple. It's also here where we get to see the Revenants in action, taking the fight to their former allies, as Shinnok hones in on the Jinsei, looking to corrupt both it and Earthrealm's life force. It's only until Johnny Cage interferes, tapping into his ancestral energy, to which the Elder God is defeated and imprisoned within his own amulet. Thus, with Shinnok's defeat, Quan Chi would go into hiding, traveling from base to base in order to avoid capture. Eventually, he is found by the Special Forces, but this time he is prepared for their attack, ambushing them and nearly killing Cage, until he is defeated by the sheer relentless fury of Sonya Blade. This allows Raiden to arrive in the nick of time to stop his transformation and restore 3 of Quan Chi's Revenants, Jax, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. The demon is able to sneak away, but it is at a huge cost. We next see Quan Chi about 20 or so years later, and time has not been kind to the Necromancer, having become weak, fragile, and delicate. Because of this, he is protected by his own Revenants, yet still secretly plans for the return of Shinnok. Still on the hunt and roaming from base to base, Quan is eventually tracked down by the Special Forces, having his Revenant forces be defeated, and him then being taken captive by Jax. But his own incarceration would spell his doom, as the Special Forces headquarters would be stormed by the Shirai Ryu. And of course, with Hanzo Hasashi restored, he would claim vengeance by decapitating Quan Chi, yet not before he is able to restore Shinnok. Now this actually marks the end of Quan Chi in the reboot trilogy, being completely absent during the events of 11. However, it is in the new era of Mortal Kombat 1 where he does make his return, and much has been changed and altered for the character in the new era. So, in Liu Kang's vision, Shinnok is gone, and Quan now actually originates from Outworld, not the Netherrealm. His fate here is far more bleak. Being born into the minds of Outworld, it was his fate to dig and die. There was no other purpose in his life than just that. That is, until he is approached by a mysterious figure by the name of the Mushi. She tells him of his tainted fate, and how Liu Kang has been the one to alter his destiny. So seeking both retribution and power, Quan Chi would band with the Mushi and Shang Tsung, working together to topple the god as they infiltrate the Edenian High Court. Once gaining the good faith of the Empress through Melina's Tarkart, Quan would begin to poison the faith between Liu and Sindel, prophesizing of his inevitable betrayal and creating a far more temperamental relationship between them. Behind the scenes, Quan Chi would begin the next step in his plan, the creation of the Soul Harvesters, a powerful weapon and way of weaponizing the souls of the dead into a life force that could fuel the Dragon King's army. To do this, he would form an alliance with the likes of Nitara, Havoc, and Darius. And upon its completion, he would create the ultimate being from it, Ermac, an amalgamation of the souls confined to that of the living forest. Here, a conflict would ensue between Ashura and her allies. But the destruction of the Soul Harvester would unleash the amassed angered spirits from the engine, with one chasing down Quan Chi and tearing out his very soul. From this point, he is taken hostage by the Earthrealmers, as they seek to interrogate him and understand what exactly he is planning. Sadly, as they arrive at Sun Do, these plans are abandoned as they are found by Shao and Li Mei. Thus, Quan Chi is able to continue his task. Yet, the loss of one Soul Harvester was only a minor setback, as it's revealed at the Ying Fortress that the two have amassed a number of them, believing it to be a key to topple the gods. And with the power they present here, they are even able to convince the Lin Kuei's Grand Master, Bi-Han, who would then join their side. As the Soul Harvesters ignite, the Earthrealmers and Outworlders launch a full-scale assault on the fortress, penetrating its defenses and confronting Quan and Shang. with it being here where they learn the true identity of their benefactor, the Titan Shang Tsung of another timeline, seeking to crumble Lu's vision and kill his dream. Understandably enraged, as all of their efforts were for naught, the Deadly Alliance would turn on their benefactor, seeking justice for being puppets in a much greater plan. Together, he and Shang Tsung are able to fend off Titan Shang's assaults, closing the gateways from his world. But both know that they would be punished for their crimes regardless. So by the end of the game, the pair do end up slipping into the shadows. Now, on a much larger scale, there would be a version of Quan Chi that does appear in the finale of the game, presumably being a Titan himself, as he does assist Shang Tsung in his siege against Fire God Liu Kang, with the pair later falling to both him and his champion, rendered to nothing more than sand and ash. So in the aftermath of the events of Mortal Kombat 1, Quan Chi looks to be on the run once more, hiding from both the eyes of Earthrealm and Outworld. But if there's one thing we know about the Necromancer, is that he can never be counted out, and always has a mischievous plan and eye on every single character. So with that said, that has been it for the history of Quan Chi, and I do hope you have enjoyed it. I found it to be a lot of fun putting this all together, and despite it being a lot of work, I'm glad it's come out the way it has, and do hope you have enjoyed the ride. So needless to say, plenty more episodes on the horizon, especially as more Mortal Kombat characters are released alongside the Kombat Pack. So as always, stay strong, stay well, and I'll catch you all next time.